Hey guys, I wanted to share with you my experience yesterday at my first writers conference. So I decided to make a video blog about this instead of writing it out. Now, whether you are a Christian writer or you're not, there's going to be information I think in here that will benefit both. Granted, it was a Christian conference, and some of this stuff is more focused on the Christian side of things and the religious side of things, but there's a lot of helpful information in here, guys, that can help you even if you're not writing in that, you know, on those topics, okay? Whether it's just regular old fantasy or a nonfiction has nothing to do with religion. There's some good information in this that I'm hoping to share with you guys. So I'm going to ask you to sit back, pull up a chair, get comfy, grab yourself a pen and paper in case you hear something that stands out to you that you want to jot down. The good news is, since this is a video, you can go back and you can rewatch it to get the information. The other piece is that if you hear about a class, because I'm going to go through the classes that were offered that kind of stood out to you, please leave a comment and let me know. I am getting the recording of the whole conference, all the workshops. So I get to go back and listen to some of these that I didn't get to sit in on because of the time slots they were in and not being able to be in more than one place at once. So when I do, I will be happy to share with you any information that comes from that you might be interested in. Okay? So with that being said, let's get started. I went to Saturday, May 17th, I went to the Rocky Mountain Christian Writers Conference at Colorado Christian University in Lakewood. It was my first writers conference, and overall it was a really good experience. It was a small conference, which bonus for me, because I was already feeling intimidated and nervous and a little anxious about speaking to an agent or a publisher there. So smaller crowd meant a little more relaxed atmosphere for me. Two things about it. The first is that they let us bring in a copy of our book and business cards, the book for promotional purposes. We weren't able to sell. So I took a copy of Never Alone and I placed it on the table, as well as a bunch of about this thick of a stack of business cards. And by the time I left in the afternoon, they were pretty dwindled down. So, not necessarily a bad thing, right? So that was the first thing. Two, I was going to the conference for two reasons. One, to try and learn something. I'm new to all this, okay? I wanted to learn. I wanted to see if there's anything else I could possibly learn that I haven't been able to learn yet. I tend to learn really well in person rather than just reading things online. So that was the first thing. The second was I had an opportunity to meet with an agent or publisher and possibly even pitch my book, my children's books. Why? Well, because I want to go the traditional route. I've been getting more of a pull to go that route. And I figured, based on what I've read, it might be the best route for me because, from what I've understood, publishers cover the illustration and the marketing piece. So I took several copies of my manuscripts, along with I wrote a query letter out, finally, after 4 months of trying to figure one out, wrote one out, put them all in folders and took them with me. I had 3 different sets of folders. One was for one person, another was for another person, and another was for another person. Now, I was only going to have 2 appointments, but on the off chance I can meet the third person, I was going to have it with me. And so that was the other hope that I was going to have the option and ability to do. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. And I'll get in more into that a little bit later. But for now, let's talk about the overall conference and the classes that were offered. So the check-in time was from between 8:30 and 9. We got there about 9-ish. And they had a keynote speaker from 9 to 10. And then they had 4 blocks of workshops. The first block was from 10:10 to 11. The second block was from 11:10 to 12. Then we had lunch from 12 to 1. From 1 to 2 was another keynote speaker. And then from 2:10 to 2:55 was the third round or third block of workshops. And 3:05 to 4 was the fourth block of workshops. Okay. I did the first round, and the classes in that one were, let me just read these to you guys. The classes in that one were how to write a book and get it published, newsletter newbies, pull your readers in with dialogue, reaching women, identity, culture, and the hero's journey, writing for Clubhouse and Clubhouse Junior, writing about faith, family, and life. Now, in that particular block, I did the how to write a book and get it published. I thought I could learn something new and interesting, and I will go over what I learned from that in just a minute. I want to read the rest of these off to you and kind of point out the ones that I was interested in. So here we go. In that same block, I was interested in the newsletter newbies. I was kind of interested in that one, and the writing for Clubhouse and Clubhouse Junior, because that is actually associated with Focus on the Family. So those are the ones that I was kind of interested in, but I was only able to do one. And the second block, and this one was the 11:10. Oops, hold on, guys. I'm having here we go. 11:10 to 12. Now I couldn't do any of the ones in this one because I had both my appointments were during this time. But here's the classes or the workshops they were offering: juicing your ideas, Scrivener 101 for beginners, how to keep your readers turning pages, editing, top 10 self-editing tips, marketing into ministry, how to be a great radio podcast guest, a Curry Letter Boot Camp. Now, in that particular one, I was definitely interested in the marketing into ministry, the how to be a great radio podcast guest, the Curry Letter Boot Camp, and honestly, I would be kind of interested in the editing, top 10 self-editing tips as well. But again, I had 2 appointments during that time slot. Then round 3, this was 2:10 to 2:25, and the workshops now were the nuts and bolts of marketing, Shriver 102 for advanced users, what magazine editors wish writers knew, writer Thou Lust, I don't know what that one's about. Identity, culture, and the hero's journey, repeat. So that was from one of the previous ones. Matched for success, aligning your writing to your audience, and from conference to contract, turning your one sheet into a stellar proposal. Now, in that block, I did the from conference to contract one. Okay. But I also wanted to do the nuts and bolts of marketing. And then the other ones that looked interesting was the what magazine editors wish writers knew and matched for success. So those are ones that I'm interested in and eager to hear more about once I get my hands on the recording. Round 4, and I didn't stay for this one. This was 3:05 to 4. By that point, I was done. I had met my limit for the day. But the classes in that one were write 400 words and get published, the 3-step secret to making your true story or novel more riveting than ever, 10 ways ChatGPT can make you a better writer, editing, top 10 self-editing tips, repeat. It just means it was repeated from earlier. Flash fiction, introduction to screenwriting, and memoir, writing into your pain. And that was the 4th block. And again, there really wasn't anything in there I was interested in except for maybe the editing one. So I will be getting the recording once they get it done and cleaned up and everything. I will be getting an email so I can purchase them. And then once I get them, I will be going through and listening to them. And when I get some information, I'll share that on with you guys. So if any of those sounded interesting, something that you might be wanting to hear more about, please leave a comment of which one that is. And then what I will do is when I get the recording and I hear it, I will pass on any tidbits of information that I hear. Sound like a deal? Awesome. So before I get into my meeting that I had, I want to touch a little bit on the classes that I took. So the how to write a book and get it published was the first one that I took. That was at 10:10. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, a lot of it was kind of repeat, but here's some of the information that she shared. Okay. First was develop friendships with others in the business. Interesting. I love that idea. And really, like anything, it's who you know, right? So the more connections you can make, the better off you are. Learn all you can. Go to conferences, seminars, workshops, get books. And actually, I bought her book so I can read it a little bit later. I'm not going to read it right now, but I do plan to read it later. And while I've already published a memoir, there's always something you can learn, guys. So, yeah, good information. She said, no book was ever published before it was written. Very true. Use standard formatting. And the formatting that and I've seen this widely put out there, is the Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced. Indent the first line and have 1-inch margins. Okay. These are typical standard formatting. I've seen some people change the font to something that looks similar to Times New Roman. But I think from going forward, I'm going to stick with the Times New Roman. She said, have your manuscript critiqued and have it professionally edited. Let's see. She did mention the different ways to publish, which was traditionally self-published and the in-between, which are the companies that will do where you pay for half of it and they pay for half, and then they will help get it published. Get a current writer's market guide. I did purchase one. I'm planning on purchasing the Christian one so that I have it as well. Write a proposal, which I heard that a lot yesterday, and I was already, I didn't know how to write one. I couldn't find information, especially how do you write one for a children's book, picture book? And everything that I had seen says that you don't need to do one for a children's picture book, okay? However, that got changed yesterday. Learn to wait because she said it's a process. It could take, months, a couple months. It could take a couple years, so be patient. She says, and this is one person I've heard, marketing is up to you, not your publisher. In the past, publishers, big publishing companies handled that. And as to my understanding, that most of the big ones still do. But that's not what I heard at this writers' conference. At this writers' conference, it is now up to the author to do the marketing. She actually recommended getting a publicist, which comes back to money that, unfortunately, I don't have the money to hire a publicist. Maybe eventually I will. But until then, I'm doing all my marketing myself, trying to learn, trying to do the best that I can, and squeeze everything in between a full-time job, writing, and school, which I will be going back to, and now marketing. So I've got a lot I'm trying to figure out as I go. She said, build your platform today and every day. Practice being interviewed. Make up questions. And this is something I thought was really interesting. She said, make up questions and then use your book to answer those questions so that you can refer to your book as you're answering the question. So like, if it was like, if it was a simple question, like, what was your experience? What were you feeling at this time in your life? In reference to my memoir, I could go, oh, well, this is where I was in my time in life. And I talk about this in my book, but this is how I was feeling. So see, I could answer that and still refer back to my book. She said, send a written thank you note by snail mail to radio hosts and TV people and podcast people, which I thought was really interesting. And she said, write every day. Be likable and write every day. It's like, so this was interesting. One more thing that I want to bring up real quick is, besides the fact that she said be likable, I love that. Be likable, get to know people, make yourself likable. Don't turn people off, and write every day. She said, doesn't matter if you write in the morning or write in the evening, pick a time to write. I struggle with that because I don't have time in the mornings. It takes me a while to get up and moving in the mornings when I am off and I'm home. I tend to write better in the evenings if I'm not coming home from work, because then I'm already burned out. But she said write every day. So that's something that I want to work on, because I still have a few books that I want to keep, children's books that I want to keep adding to for my series so that I can get them done. But here's what the interesting thing about the proposal, because here's what she was saying. She said, have a proposal or query letter, right? Query. I'm sorry, guys. I'm horrible with pronunciation sometimes. But she said proposals are usually for nonfiction or magazine articles, whereas in fictions get just the letter. So then, see, she's telling me that, right? And so these are things that, I don't know. There's a lot that she went over. It was very helpful. A lot of things I already knew, and some things that were interesting that, oh, I didn't think about that, or ooh, this is a good idea, or ooh, so I took notes. So again, while I've already published a memoir, I learned something new that I didn't know, and I actually enjoyed that class. So that was the first thing I took. That was the first class I took. The second one I did was the From Conference to Contract. Now this one I found to be helpful because she breaks down on how to write a proposal. She mostly spent the person who went over the workshop was an agent, and actually, ironically enough, she's one of the people that I met with earlier that morning, and I will get into that later. But she talked mostly about writing a proposal for nonfiction. Then she briefly went over what it should look like for fiction, and in my case, children's books. Now, she actually said she wants a proposal for children's books, which, again, as I said, in the first class, proposals are used for nonfiction and magazine articles, whereas in fictions are just the letters, and children's books are just the letters, so it's like, what do you do? One thing I have learned is that whatever the agent wants, you provide. If it is a proposal, you give a proposal. If they say they want a proposal for nonfiction only, then that's what you provide, and you provide the letter for the other. Does that make sense? So these are the things that, I found interesting. I think, honestly, it varies per agent and person and what their likes are. So, but she broke this down for nonfiction and then kind of breezed through it for fiction. So I thought I'd share that with you guys right now. I'm going to be reading these from her slides. They're a little hard to read, but I thought I'd give this to you guys so you have them. And then what I'll probably do is I'll probably upload those so that you can go back and look at them later. Okay. So the first is content. This is for nonfiction, guys. Content. She said this includes a unique selling proposition. The info should be bulleted and include this sentence. If consumers in the target market purchase and read XX book, then they will, and she said list 3 or 4 bullet points. Okay. And then she goes, and then she said you would say because they will, and then list 3 or 4 bullet points. Okay. So that was the first. And then the second part of this, hold on, guys. My thing is all messed up. Here we go. The second part of this was adding the overview. Okay. She says this gives the publisher the general info and themes of your book. Manuscripts, and this is all under content. Okay. Manuscripts are divided into parts. How many sections can you divide your manuscript into? And when she was talking, I was like, if you know the first part of your book, the middle part of your book, and the third and the end part of your book, those would be parts. So like the first, third, second, third. And then she said, give 2 or 3 sentences on each section to give the publisher of an idea of what your book is about. And she said to make that an elevator speech type thing. So just like in a conference, keep it an elevator pitch or a way to describe your book in 30 seconds or less. Okay. And then she said the manuscript also goes under content. And she said, this is where you give the info about your actual book. And she said it would include the manuscript status, how much is completed, special features. What does it have that may make your book stand out from the rest? Example, bulleted info, sidebars, illustrations, charts or graphs, photos, etc. And she did mention if your book has photos or illustrations to include those in your proposal, have those attached. Okay. She said to include your manuscript length, not the number of pages, not the number of chapters, but your actual word count. She said if you're still writing it, then it would be best to at least add the projected word count that you're anticipating it's going to be. So that was one of the things that she mentioned. Completion date, the amount of time you need to complete the entire book. That was the other piece. Okay. The second part of your proposal should be about your market. The characteristics. Who is your primary audience for the book? Example that she said to be specific about. She said that an example would be, my primary audience is Christian teen girls ages 13 to 19. Okay, so that was the primary audience. Then she said, do you have a secondary or tertiary audience? And what she meant by that is, for instance, like in a children's book, your primary audience is the children, your secondary audience would be the parents or caregiver, and the third would be like a Sunday school or school classroom. Okay. Your motivations. Okay. Why does your audience want to read your book? If your book is a devotional on prayer, it can be for people who are tired or not praying to God with their whole hearts and who want to experience a deeper, more authentic prayer life. This was an example that she gave. The motivations need to be included under your second section, which is the market. Okay. Then you have the affinity groups. She said these are the people who want to purchase your book. Example for a book on prayer might be pastors in the ministry 10 years or more, or subscribers to our Daily Bread magazine, etc. Then you get to the competition. Okay. And the competition piece talks about, this one I thought was interesting, honestly, because I never thought about this. So this one I thought was interesting. She said this is where you really need to do your research. Okay. She said that you should pick at least 3 to 4 books. And I actually wrote this one down. She said 3 to 4 titles that are similar to what your book is about. And then you would want to list their name, the name of the book, the title of the book, and the author. And then it'd be helpful to give like when it was published, like so how old it is. And then you want to go through each one and write a couple sentences and tell what makes your book similar to theirs and what's different. Okay. That one was interesting. She said this shows that you know your market and you know your competition. Okay. So that was interesting. Like I never even thought about that one. So yeah, I'm actually interested that one kind of, caught my attention. The third section that she went over was about the author. And she said, this is where you get to brag about yourself a little bit. What skills and abilities do you have from previous experience and awards? Talk about yourself. She said, you can mention, your college degree, previous jobs, previous writing, articles you've written in your blog, your website, speaking engagements, radio and TV opportunities, podcasts, internet promotions, social media, websites, and stuff. She said that would be a good place that's where she wants to know more about you. And then comes section 4 of your proposal, and this is your marketing. She said she wants to know what your marketing plan is. Speaking engagements you have done, speaking engagements you plan to solicit. Now, she broke this down to actually show the way she's talked about it was the ones that you have done. So, for instance, if you spoke to a church group and there were 50 attendees, you would put such and such church, 15 in attendance. That would be the speaking engagements you've done. And then you would list the speaking engagements you plan to solicit, who you plan to talk to, who you plan to reach out to. Okay. Radio and TV opportunities you've done, speaking opportunities you plan to do, newspapers you can write press releases for, websites where you can advertise your book, ways to use social media for promotional purposes. She wants to know what your marketing plan is. Section 5 was a chapter by chapter synopsis. This one, she said, it should be 1 to 2 sentences about each chapter. What is the book going? Where's the book going in terms of story arc? She said publishers need to know what your plan is for the book so they know if they want to take a chance on it. They don't want like a huge in-depth information on it and basically you telling what your chapters are all about in depth. They just want a quick synopsis of each chapter. Okay. That was for nonfiction, guys. That's a lot. And I will put these up so you guys can actually pull this stuff information off. And keep in mind, whether you're writing Christian or not, it doesn't matter. This layout is going to be the same. Just think about your genre, think about your audience and who you're writing to. Okay. Now, she was one of the ones who wanted a proposal for fiction and for children's books. And this is how she set it up for fiction. Okay. She said she wants the hook, a concise summary of 50 words or less of the story and why a reader should buy the book. The synopsis, a summary of the story, 1 to 2 pages, single spaced. Editors want a clear presentation of the plot online and action. It's okay to leave out some minor characters. The market, who will buy this book, how can you contribute to the marketing effort beyond your circle of friends? Do you have a blog or website where you can post a teaser chapter? Competition, let's see. What makes your story different from other novels out there? Name 3 to 4 similar titles. The author, what qualifies you to write this novel? Education, journalism, or writer training, specialized fiction, study, research, and reading patterns. The characters, make a list of the key characters with brief descriptions and an expanded table of contents. Provide a 2 to 3 sentence summary of each chapter. Now, I asked quickly about how to use this for a children's picture book, and she said in that case, I would leave off the expanded table of contents, and I wouldn't be writing a 1 to 2 page synopsis for obvious reasons. So that was her explanation. She also mentioned ways that you can beef up your proposal if it's looking a little thin. And these are the examples that she gave to keep in mind. Again, this was a Christian Writers Conference, so one of these at least is going to be related to Christian. But guys, think about how you guys can can fill this in based off of this information, okay? First one she gave was biblical foundation. What Bible verses will you be using in your book? List them there. Tell how you plan to use a verse in your book. 2, endorsements. This will turn a publisher's eye if you have some celebrities who are willing to partner with you. This also helps establish platform. 3, reviews. What are people saying about your writing and or speaking? Have people write a 1 or 2 sentence review of you as a writer or speaker. If you have enough from both, include them in 2 separate categories. 4, specific reader benefits. What will the reader gain from reading your book? And 5, history of the manuscript. Have you shown the proposal to any other publishers, agents, etc.? Let the publisher know this. This will help them to know if it is a simultaneous submission. That was everything that she gave me, okay? It's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot, but it was really helpful. Now, her slides were hard to read, so I might try and go in and, I don't know, if I'm feeling interested enough, I might do another blog post where I list all this information for you guys so that you can read it. But I will try and at least post the pictures so that you can see them if you want to try and go in and, take screenshots and zoom in and whatnot. Sorry guys, my nose itches. But I will try and do another blog post where I list this information for you guys so it makes it a little easier to read. So be patient with me on that. Those were the 2 classes that I took. That is a lot of information. And as such, I'm actually eager to see what is going to happen with the next person I speak to. That being said, those were the classes I took. I'm eager to hear what the other classes were about and get more information. So if you hear anything, again, please let me know in the comments. I will be sure to post information on those once I get that information. Okay. I'm all about sharing tidbits and information. You're never going to learn, right? We can never learn unless we share, right? So that is that. Now, let's talk about my appointments. My appointments, my first was with, so I originally picked one individual who was not there. She's an agent, and I'm supposed to meet with her. She's supposed to reach out to me, and they talked about maybe meeting this week so that we can touch base. I'm considering writing a proposal for my children's book, considering it. I looked at her website. I didn't see anything on there about a proposal for fiction or children's picture books. I just saw a request for proposals for nonfiction. So I'm considering it. I'm not expecting much to come from it. I do have everything prepared on my computer, so I can send those over if need be. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I met with two individuals that I had three other picks on my list. I was given two of them. One of my picks, the third pick that I had I was only allowed 2 appointments. So that third pick was not available. I was prepared to talk to her if I could see her and there was time, but there wasn't. So I only had my 2 picks. One was an agent. She was the one who was in charge of the proposal class. And the other was a publisher. And I saw them both during the second block of workshops. And the agent was the first person I saw. And I got a lot of information. I never showed her my manuscript or my query letter. She wasn't interested. She wants a proposal. She wants a proposal for my children's book. I'm like, okay. But aside from that, she said she wasn't interested in working with me right now. And her reasons were because I do not have 2,000 followers and because I have not sold enough of my memoir, which she said memoirs are hard to sell. Those don't sell too well is what she said. So that's a little difficult. And I was like, awesome. So you want me to sell more of my memoir, even though, it's a little harder to sell, right? Awesome. Okay, cool. No, and really guys, it's not a big deal. The thing that I'm concerned about is the marketing piece and getting 2,000 followers. I had to get 2,000 followers before 9 months. Why? Because she gave me her email and told me to follow up with her in 9 months to see where I'm at. And so I'm learning all this on my own. Again, I don't have the money to pay someone to do this for me. I have my TikTok, I have my Instagram and Threads account. I do have X, but I don't use that much. Truth be told, I'm not a big fan of X. And then I have my Facebook page, and then I have my newsletter, which if you aren't signed up for my newsletter, sign up for it. I send that out typically once a month, twice on special reasons. Okay. Sorry about that. I would redo this, but hey, we'll have balloons in the video. Why not? Makes it more entertaining, right? So I do have my newsletter. It does go out once a month, sometimes 2, depending on the situation. It will go out 2 times this month because I will be updating it with this information along with another blog post I plan to hopefully get out this month. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then on my blog, I've done a couple podcasts. I've interviewed with a couple that have not aired yet. I'm still waiting to hear back about those. My marketing has been, that's about as far as my marketing has gotten, aside from the local events that I've done. And so I'm a little concerned that I'm not going to get to where she wants me to be in 9 months. Doesn't mean I won't try. I mean, it's all up to him, really. It really is. And I know with him, all things are possible. But I'm not going to stress out about it. If it happens, it happens. I'm going to put my best foot forward. I'm going to make my best attempt, and I'm going to do it. That's the best that I can do. It's the best that I can try. And again, aside from that, it was good to get some information and understand, because everyone's different, right? So the first appointment, that's the way it went. The second appointment also did not pull out my children's book manuscript. I didn't give him the query letter. I didn't give him any of that stuff because he didn't want it. We talked about it, and I'm not afraid to say that I actually got, by that point, I was very anxious and feeling a little intimidated, and I actually started to cry a little bit. So it's like, wow, right? So I had a good conversation with him. Two things that I learned from him. One is he said that I need to get an illustrator. Roadblock again. Again, finding someone who can do the illustrations for me for my children's books has been difficult, especially really it's been the financial piece, and then finding the right style. And the few that I have found the style that I'm looking for, it goes right back to the financial piece. So until something changes with that, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that done, but I'm going to try. And so he told me once I got an illustrator to reach out to him. He gave me his card. However, it was helpful too, because he asked me about my word count, and he said that children's picture books usually range from 32 pages to 40 pages. I did not know that. Guys, everything that I looked up about children's books online has been no more than 30 pages. Literally, 28 is the most you want. That's what I've been finding everywhere I look. So to hear that, and then I got to thinking about that, it's like, hey, you know what? I've seen children's books that have been that long. I'm getting wrong information. So that helped a lot. And it means that I can actually extend one of my books, the Arrow books, a little bit more, because I want fewer words on each page. So that's going to be helpful. But my one children's book that I have, I already got few words on each page. It's very short, very straight to the point. But it just also means that I maybe can make them a little longer without, I don't know, maybe I break one of the pages up into 2 pages instead of 1, which I might be able to do, thankfully. But I did learn that information. So all in all, the appointments, while it didn't go quite like I thought it would, I figured I'd at least get to give one of my manuscripts out. It kind of went the way I thought it would probably go anyways, which means meaning that I wasn't going to give anything out to begin with. But I did get some helpful information. So right now, my goal is to find an illustrator, to go back through my children's books and see how I can break those up a little bit longer, which I'm going to probably try. My Arrow books are made for an older group of kids, which, by the way, I read one of my Arrow books to my students at the school that I work at, in my sped department that I work in, and they all loved it. It made me feel good. I got all my kids loved it. They're like, I loved your book. I loved your book, Miss Kelly. I loved your book, Miss Kelly. So that made me feel good. But I'm going to see about breaking those down into a few more pages, because I have literally crammed into like 28, 30 pages. So that gives me a little bit more room to play with. And that's going to make it so much easier. And I'm going to work on the marketing, which is why I want to hear that nuts and bolts workshop class about marketing. I really do. So, yeah. Overall, it was a really good experience. Overall, I learned a lot, and I'm really happy with my experience. And I don't think I could have asked for a better opportunity. I want to go back next year, and I want to do um, some more in the future. So that was a lot, guys. This has turned out to be almost an hour video, but I told you it was going to be long. Despite the fact that I had the surprise balloons, and I mean, hey, why not, right? Um, so yeah, it was a really good day. I got to spend it with my husband a little bit. I learned some really valuable information. I got to get my foot in the water a little bit when it comes to talking to people who are publishers and agents. And that's something I haven't had an opportunity to do before. So I got out there, I put myself out there. I'm not afraid to do it. Am I nervous about it? Yes. Do I have some anxiety over it? Well, yeah. I'm the introvert. Um, but I've already done it with my book, with my memoir, with Never Alone. So why not this? I have a long road ahead of me. And if God is willing, I'm going to get these children's books done. I definitely need a better job. I'm not going to lie, so that I can afford it. But God willing, I'm going to get them done, guys. And I got a lot of great insight to get me started. Things that I didn't have before. And now I know how to write a proposal. So, which brings me to this. Am I going to write a proposal for this next meeting I have? I don't know. I'm debating it. Again, she had it on their proposals for nonfiction, nothing about fiction and children's books. So I think I might just talk to her, offer her my curry letter, offer her my manuscript, and see where it takes me. And if she says she wants a proposal, then I'll write it up in a proposal and I'll send it to her. It's the best I got, right? So, guys, if you get an opportunity to go to a conference and you're a writer or you're aspiring to be a writer or you want to write and you want to publish, whether it's self-publishing or traditional or somewhere in between, go to a writer's conference. You're going to learn a lot. And obviously, we need to know a lot more than we used to know. So go, learn, dive into it. It's worth it. And again, if any of those classes that I referred to and named earlier sounds like something that you want to know more, want more information on, drop me a comment with the name of the class. And when I get the recording and I listen to it and I get some information of it, I'll pass that information on to you guys. I really will. I'm also going to upload the video, not the videos, the pictures from the proposal class. And then I'll go back and I'll write, I'll do like a blog post for you guys with it all broken down in there, a little more easier to read, a little more clearer to read so that you guys can do it. So that'll be between this post and that post, that's 2 posts right there. And I'm hoping to have another one for you guys. So that is my video for the day. That is my blog. Thanks for sitting in with me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for paying attention and for joining me. And I hope that you guys got something out of this. I hope that if you're on this journey for writing, that you guys have picked up some helpful information that you can use, whether it's from the first class that I gave you, whether it's from the proposal writing, whatever the case is. I want to help others who are struggling and trying to figure all this out, like myself. Because if you're like me, you've probably run into a lot of information that is just like too much information. None of it makes sense. It's all contradictory. And then you're getting information from maybe Facebook groups, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it helps sometimes to have it all condensed down. And my hope is that I can help you guys with that, because we have something worth saying. We have a voice that needs to be heard, and we have a story to tell. And every story is unique, and every story has its own adventure, and every story has its own design. And until you write it, it's never been written. So thanks for joining me. I hope you will join me again later, and have a great night. Bye, guys.